Hi, this is History MD coming to you with the latest historical emergency viruses. Viruses were first discovered with the invention of the electron microscope back in 1931. This finally proved that they were different from bacteria first observed in 1676. But where do they come from? Researching the origins of viruses is very tricky since they do not leave any fossils behind. Therefore, studying their origins relies on their common history with their hosts, ranging from bacteria to sea urchins, from camels to bats, and of course us, humans. Viruses present a great diversity. They have different genomes, structures, and replication strategies. What they have in common, however, is their microscopic sizes. They are generally less than about 300 nanometers, which is smaller than genes. They also share the common trait of being only able to replicate within a host cell. Because they do not carry out any metabolic processes, it is difficult to state whether viruses are truly alive or not. Rather, they might inhabit a different branch of the tree of life altogether, named capsid-encoding organisms, or CEOs. Although some of them do cause diseases, most viruses actually appear to be beneficial, as they drive evolution by effectuating gene transfers across different species, and are essential to life for their important roles in various ecosystems. Virologists have still not answered where exactly viruses came from. Nonetheless, there are three widely accepted hypotheses. The progressive model proposes that viruses descended from genetic bits and pieces that were able to move between cells. The regressive model claims that they are actually vestiges of cellular organisms, while the virus first model proposes, as its name suggests, that viruses existed before or evolved codependently with their host organisms. Hence, scientists still do not have an exact idea of how or when viruses originated. We need more research in the fields of microbiology, genomics, and structural biology in order to find out more about them. Therefore, we can only assume that our species has been dealing with viruses that cause diseases since times immemorial. However, epidemics and pandemics are thought to be more recent developments recorded by history. Viruses have changed their behavior parallel to the evolution of human history. For most of our past, human populations were too small for pandemics to occur. Viral epidemics began with the increase in density of human habitats about 12,000 years ago. The advent of agriculture that occurred in the Neolithic and the subsequent domestication of formerly wild animals had a clear effect on the evolution of human diseases. As humans began to rely more on domesticated plants and animals, the occurrence of diseases also increased. Even though some have been with us for much of our species' history, the increasing density of human populations created a hotbed for other viral epidemics such as mumps, polio, and rubella. During the 20th century, population density has increased tremendously, and there have been incredible advances in agriculture and transportation. This in turn created new opportunities for the evolution and spread of viruses. Let's go over some of the most significant viruses that have affected human history. Measles and smallpox are known to be the two of the oldest zoonotic diseases, which is spread to humans from animals. The latter remains the deadliest virus recorded in history, killing about 300 million people during the 20th century alone. The two diseases were often confused with one another before the advent of modern medicine. Both were highly contagious and presented similar symptoms such as rashes and fevers. The first person known to have distinguished smallpox from measles was the physician from medieval Iran, Rhazes. Meanwhile, Western medicine continued to misdiagnose one with the other for almost another 1,000 years. It is believed that the smallpox virus infecting humans descended from a virus that initially infected rodents, and it is thought to have probably emerged in India more than 10,000 years ago. We have records in antiquity showing evidence of smallpox affecting Egypt and the Greek city-states. Although it is thought to have initially appeared in Western Europe and North Africa millennia ago, it remained unknown in the New World until the Spanish conquest. Smallpox has been eradicated in 1977, but new deadly viruses have continued to emerge, such as HIV, the human immunodeficiency virus, and SARS, severe acute respiratory syndrome, which produces a disease with similar symptoms to a well-known disease that has been affecting humans for a while now, the flu. The influenza virus is thought to have originated from ducks and other waterfowl, which then spread to swine and then to human beings. We have records on influenza since the 16th century, and based on these, it is safe to say that the frequency of their occurrence has increased ever since. During the flu epidemic in the 1550s, around 5% of England's population perished, while the first flu pandemic ever on record swept through Eurasia and Africa in the 1580s. 3 pandemics are known to have occurred during the 18th century, and the one that happened in the early 1780s wreaked havoc across Eurasia. It began near the end of 1781 in China and reached Eastern Europe by early 1782, while the last influenza pandemic of the 19th century took place in 1899 and killed about 250,000 in Europe. This was the first time that the virus had the opportunity to travel across the globe with faster modes of transportation such as steamships and trains. The first flu pandemic of the 20th century came with a new influenza virus strain that emerged in 1918, which came to be referred to as the Spanish flu, and it is one of the worst natural disasters to have ever occurred in human history. About 50 million people perished across the world. The second one occurred in 1957. A new strain of influenza emerged and caused what's known as the Asian flu pandemic, when 1 million perished across the globe. Finally, the third flu pandemic to have occurred in the 20th century was the Hong Kong flu that emerged in 1968. As of 2020, officially, the last flu pandemic occurred in 2009, but nowhere was it as devastating as the Spanish flu of 1918. According to the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, an airborne pathogen resembling the Spanish flu today could kill more than 30 million people across the globe in a matter of 6 months. As the 21st century is nearing the end of its first quarter, we have had at least 5 global pandemic fears: SARS, H1N1, Ebola, MERS, and Zika. The 2002-2003 Sars Outbreak, which was also a coronavirus, infected 8,000 and killed about 800 people. The economic toll, however, was far superior, estimated at $40 billion. SARS is caused by a coronavirus, the name given to a number of viruses affecting mammals and birds, discovered during the 1960s. The name is derived from the Latin word for crown, referring to the appearance of the virus particles. About a decade after SARS, a new type of coronavirus was identified in September 2012, referred to as the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome coronavirus. There have been almost 2,500 cases with a mortality rate of about 35%. Finally, the pneumonia outbreak was reported in December 2019 in Wuhan city of Hubei province in China. The outbreak was traced back to a novel strain of a coronavirus. As of March 2020, there have been more than 8,000 confirmed deaths and more than 200,000 confirmed cases. And as such, It went on record as the deadliest outbreak of a coronavirus since the Sars outbreak in 2003. On 20th of January 2020, the World Health Organization declared the novel coronavirus, COVID-19, as a public health emergency of international concern. On the 11th of February, the World Health Organization gave the new coronavirus disease the name of COVID-19. A month later, WHO announced COVID-19 outbreak as a pandemic. Here are the symptoms. Most patients develop a fever, feel fatigue, and have a dry cough. Muscle aches and shortness of breath can also occur. Other minor symptoms may include headaches, dizziness, stomach aches, nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. There's a 5-day period between the appearance of the initial symptoms and the development of acute respiratory distress syndrome, which deprives the lungs from distributing oxygen to the organs. Scientists are currently working hard on a vaccine against the virus. But until then, here are some of the ways you can use in order to prevent catching the disease. Regularly wash your hands with soap and water, cover your mouth when sneezing or coughing, use a tissue and throw it away immediately. Don't touch your eyes, mouth or nose with unwashed hands, and try not to touch surfaces and objects in public places. Dr. Gabriel Leung, an epidemiologist from the University of Hong Kong specialized in infectious diseases, wrote that the novel coronavirus is a close relative to the viruses affecting bats. It is assumed that the virus jumped from wild bats to an intermediate host, such as one of the many smaller animals being sold at the famous food market in Wuhan. Shoppers were probably here contaminated and then spread it to other localities. Unknowingly, since it takes anywhere from 5 days to 2 weeks for the disease symptoms to appear. As of the recording of this video, the history of the latest pandemic affecting human civilization remains to be written, and we all have our parts to play in it. If you like the video, be sure to leave a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and state your historical emergency in the comments below. Thank you for watching.